Okay, so this is something a little different. I've been asked to get involved with something called the Pass the Hope Challenge by a good friend, Doug Daniel in the States. And it's a lovely idea. We're living through a season where everybody is worried about catching something or passing something on. What a wonderful idea that we could transmit hope instead of infection. So we're going to do something just very quickly around verses that I find hope in. Some of you who know me know that about 17 years ago now, my life began to transform from something that was very controlled, very much that I knew where I was going, through a period of discovering illnesses and really a total change in my outlook. And one of the trigger events in that was that during the summer of 2004, I began to lose my eyesight. It was only temporary, it turned out, and I can't tell you how grateful to God I am for that. But during that period, I began to memorize scriptures, and scriptures that to me spoke beyond my chaos, spoke beyond my circumstances. We are a people who live in the truth, which means we can't be a people who live with denial. I know right now it's really tempting to take all the verses that you've got stuck to your fridge and wave them around as though it means that the reality of life is not going to happen to us. But all around the world, we have to face the hard reality that Jesus said, in this world we will have trouble. And right now, millions of people are facing trouble, restrictions to what they thought of as their freedoms, threats that they never really understood, an enemy that you can't see, and so it's incredibly difficult to fight. And so God's people today need to be a people who are not in denial, who accept that there is a truth that is challenging and difficult, and which for a lot of people is going to be extremely hard to bear. But we are a people of hope. And Hebrews 11:1, those famous verses, it speaks about faith being the substance of things hoped for. So often we look at that in terms of an emphasis on what the faith is. But of course, what it also tells us is that hope has substance. It has substance. And our access to that substance is based on our relationship of trust with a God who is responsible for giving us hope. Right now, we are hearing news reports every day that they are searching for a vaccine. News reports that social distancing may be achieving certain goals, but that the spread of the disease is continuing. Just today in the UK here, we had somebody say with great authority that if we manage under 20,000 deaths, that somehow it will be an achievement. Those are truly awful numbers, and we should not be in denial of them. But we are a people of hope because God alone is our hope, and He is our hope in the midst of the reality that we face. Faith, we often like to say in kind of our church community, is two components. It's a commitment based on a confidence. Faith is a commitment because what we're saying is, I'm going to trust God and God alone. Not I'm going to trust God plus, or I'm going to trust God and, but I'm going to trust God alone. My dependency is on Him. That doesn't abdicate as a responsibility to do the things which are medically sensible, to be good stewards of the life that He's given us and caretakers of the people that are around us. But it means that ultimately, no matter what is going on around me, no matter what I endure, no matter what I face, no matter what troubles may come, that Jesus, who is my Redeemer and who spoke honestly about the troubles of this life, is the same Jesus who said, "Fear not, I have overcome the world." Faith is a commitment that above all else, regardless of what I see or hear, I choose God to be my refuge. I choose God to be my strength. I choose God to be my comfort. But it's also a commitment which is based on a confidence in God's ability. That seems perhaps obvious, but also a confidence in God's willingness to be Redeemer, to be Healer, to be Savior, to be Provider, to be Wisdom, to be Peace. God is ready and willing as well as able. And so our hope has substance. And that substance is made available to us Read the stories of people who seem almost untouched by what goes on around them. But if you want to read the story of a man who is very frank about his circumstances, you need only turn to Job. Job doesn't give us any opportunity to doubt his condition. He tells us right where he's at. And yet, in amongst all of his discussion of his sorrow and his suffering and his fears, there is one thing that Job asks to be remembered. In fact, of all the things that we know about him, it's the one thing that Job said should be his memorial. You can find it in Job 19, verses 23 to 27. This is what he said. Would that my words were now written, that they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that he shall stand at the last days upon the earth. And though after my skin worms will eat this flesh, yet with my own eyes I will see God. I will see him for myself, not someone else in my place, though my reins be consumed within me. I don't know whether you're in self-isolation at the moment or you have loved ones who are in the high-risk categories. But Job is not pretending that he's not suffering. He speaks about the destruction of his body, but his confidence and his hope is this: in my flesh, I am going to see God myself. He doesn't say just that his Redeemer will stand at the last days. That is true, and that is a great hope, and a hope that every Christian shares. But he declares this: I know that my Redeemer lives. When? Now. Now, today, now in this circumstance, now when I'm considering that my body may not have much left in it, now when there is an enemy that is overwhelming me and I have no other defenses, now I know that my Redeemer lives. I'm free because I have a Redeemer. I'm not constrained by the fear that would engulf me because of my Redeemer. I don't have to be a fantasist. I don't have to sit here and pretend that I'm not suffering. I didn't, all those years ago, have to pretend that my eyesight was fine. It wasn't. I had to deal with that situation. I don't have to pretend today that I don't have a compromised immune system. I take my tablets. I look after myself. I make sure that I'm not exposed to pathogens. Right now, me and my whole family, we are in lockdown. But in the reality of the circumstances, still my Redeemer lives. And he shall stand at the last day upon the earth. He is unshaken, he is unchangeable, and my destination, my hope is certain. You see, we don't have to be a people of denial because we are a people of dependency. We have a hope. And when we commit ourselves fully to the God of that hope, when we say ultimately, whatever else is shaken, whatever else transpires, God, you are sure, you are our certain foundation, you are our hope. And we don't have to live in denial, but there is great rejoicing in being dependent. While the world around us imagines all the worst possible scenarios, and our politicians one day are overly optimistic and the next day are prophesying doom, we can be a people grounded in the truth, not denying the difficulties of our times, showing great compassion to the people around us, but we have hope in the dependency that we place upon Jesus Christ. He alone is unshakable and immovable. And whether it's COVID-19 or my immune condition or the failure of my renal transplant or any number of things that eventually take me to the place where worms will eat this flesh, yet with my eyes, I am going to see my God. God bless. Stay safe. Pass the hope.